emails. I can almost see the shame through the camera. I know you do it. I know you check it way more than you should. And I know because I have worn the cone of shame too. It's understandable. But it has been proven to be the #1 time waster, not only for entrepreneurs and self-employed people, but anyone who has a normal job where they work on a computer, and it is also the #1 time waster in people's personal lives, that and things like Facebook. So email must be dealt with. So please take this seriously. It is no joke. There have been studies that have shown that people who check their email every 5 minutes lose 8.5 hours of time per week. What else could you be doing with that time? Now, granted, checking every 5 minutes might be excessive, but there are some of you who are watching this that fall under that category. So let's be honest here. That is a lot of time. And so what it really comes down to it is, why is email such a waste of time? It's because if you are allowing yourself to check email when it's not a dedicated time to do so, and you allow it to interrupt you, it would be like the equivalent of constantly answering the phone. When you're in the middle of something, you're trying to get something done, you're focused, the phone rings, you answer it, you talk for 20 minutes. By the time you come back, you are off track and you've lost time, and it takes time for your brain to switch from one thing to another. So every time you interrupt yourself, you're interrupting your train of thought, you're interrupting your momentum. And so then when you start back over, you've lost that momentum. It would be like, trying to roll down a hill and you get 10 feet down and you stop. You're not going to pick up a lot of momentum. And then you get going and you're halfway down the hill and you're picking up a lot of speed while you're rolling, and then you stop. Well, then when you start over again, it's like starting back at the top of the hill, going really slow. And so it's just not productive. And so I'm going to go over some tips and tools for minimizing the amount of time that you waste with your emails. So they are truly a necessary evil, and there are many benefits to it. We have so much more connectivity and so many more ways to communicate than we used to, but there's a dark side. So let's take care of that. And so here are some tools, and not all of them can necessarily be done together. And it's a matter of you looking at which ones will work for you. So the first tool, which is something that I use, which is to narrow down the emails when you first open them. So some business people, myself included, receive thousands of emails a day. It's absurd. I literally have like 14 different email addresses, which I'll get to later. It can make you mental. Now, I do have people now that help me with my emails. I don't have to do it all myself anymore. Yay! But it can be very overwhelming, and you can really waste a lot of time. And so this is the narrow down strategy. And that is the very first thing you do before you look at the content of any email or you respond to anything, is you go through and you delete absolutely everything that is not a legitimate email. That's any spam. It's any things that you're just not going to deal with. Something that needs to be filed that you're not going to deal with like anytime this century, but you need to keep it. Get it out of the inbox. Just remove it. And then what happens is, then when you look at what you have left, it's easier to understand what's happening, and it's not overwhelming, and you can narrow down to maybe 20 emails instead of 100. It makes a huge difference. And it doesn't feel like you're just wading through them all day long. So that is one strategy. Another strategy is to prioritize. So the first time that you see the emails in that day, then you decide which ones are priority and you mark them. All different email programs have different way of marking priority. And then you can also, delete the ones that you don't need. But the most important part of this tip is to prioritize the ones that you are going to be dealing with. And then either dedicate time or set a specific time later in the day that you're going to deal with the priority ones, and do the priority ones first. And so as an alternative to either of those, there's the touch it once strategy. And it's kind of like when you're cleaning your house, or even when you're just walking through your house. If you pick up an item and then you end up walking across the house and just placing it into another pile of crap that has to get put away, then you're wasting your time because you're going to have to pick it up a second time to put it away. So anytime you pick up something in your house that doesn't belong there, put it away that time. Don't keep moving it from place to place. Well, people seem to do that a lot with their emails. You look at it, you decide whether, oh, I don't really feel like answering this now, and you're scanning the list, and you pass over that one like 6 times before you actually do anything with it. So this strategy is touch it only one time, once. So either do it, delete it, schedule it, or delegate it. Those are your choices, done. And if you're not going to do one of those things, then don't be looking at your email. Okay, got that? So here's another good one. This one's probably the most important to really see what you're doing as far as your schedule with your emails. Stop being OCD. Stop checking it obsessively. Limit yourself to at the maximum once per hour. 1 to 2 times a day is ideal. And it might take some weaning to get to the place where you're only checking it once or twice a day. But for the love of God, do not be one of those people who's checking it every 5 minutes. It is absurd and it's wasting your time. Don't check it obsessively. The world's not going to end if you wait a little while to respond to somebody. Okay, so how can you do this? One of the most important tips that goes along with the OCD one is you absolutely must turn your email notifications off. I said it. You gotta turn them off. And so this means on your mobile device, those notifications that go ding when you get an email, you need to turn it off. It is interrupting you. It is distracting you. And in most people's situations, there is no such thing as an email that is so important that you need to respond to it right then. When you need to respond to emails is when you set aside time to respond to emails, not at every person's beck and call. On your computer, there's a little notification that pops up that says, you've got mail. And what happens is when you're working and you see the little thing pop up, sometimes they even show you what the message is and what it says. And then, oh, it is so tempting. And then what do? You click on it, even though you know you shouldn't. And then you see it. And then, oh, now that you're in there, you see that there's other emails that you missed. And then, 45 minutes later, you get back to what you were doing. It needs to stop. It is absurd. It is not working. I know I do this to myself. It is like torture. Whenever I don't have it turned off, I get distracted. I'm like a squirrel. I'm on that email. And so the only way you're really going to focus and get anything done without interrupting yourself with email is to turn off the notifications. Okay, I've spoken my piece on that one. And so here's another one. Another tip is be careful with your mornings. Now, this is really interesting and it really blew my mind. So you've probably done mass emails before, and we've done them for years and years and years. And it used to be that there were a couple times during the week that were the best time to send an email because it's the most likely to be opened. And so usually, like the early afternoon and, not on Monday or Friday, blah, 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 blah. And so we kind of had our routines down. And then we went to a seminar with people that work with constant contact, and they had this information from all of the stuff that they track over the years. And what's really fascinating that they told us that just blew our minds is that smartphones have completely revolutionized the way that people deal with email. And what they told us was that 80% of people with smartphones check their email before they brush their teeth. And so this is very good news. If you do email campaigns, that you need to have your emails going out at like 6:30 in the morning, because that is when people are checking their emails. So that being said, you do not want to be one of these people. And you want to go against the grain with this one. So it's great if they're opening your email, but it's not great if you're opening their email. And the reason why is it can be such a disruption to the start of your day. And so I know how tempting it is, and I have to admit, I still do it sometimes, but it is a very bad habit. And sometimes I have to smack myself on the hand to get myself to stop. So why would it be such a temptation? Well, especially for people who have a business where they receive a notification when they get a sale. It can be really tempting because you want to see what you sold overnight. Now, isn't that the greatest thing ever, that you can get paid while you're sleeping? It's fantastic. But if the first thing you're doing is hopping on your email, you are like totally not respecting that you have a life outside of your job. And so it's understandable that it's tempting, but I want you to ask yourself, does it ever backfire? Does it ever lead to you starting out your day on the wrong foot? Because maybe you didn't get the sales. Maybe there's some problem that you see first thing in the morning that just sets a bad tone for the day. And so really consider whether it is worth checking that email first thing in the morning, even though I know it's tempting and you're probably going to do it anyway, but at least consider stopping. So what would be better is for you to set the tone of your day intentionally by, doing some of the suggestions in the other video we have about the power hour. Get your mind focused on what your day is going to be, and don't clutter it up with email first thing in the morning, before you've even eaten breakfast or brushed your teeth. And so the last tip is to divide and conquer. And I know I mentioned I have like 14 different email addresses. I know it sounds absurd, but I have a lot of different business segments. And so what I've done is I have a different email address for each one. Now, the reason why I do that is because if I am dealing with somebody with marketing, then I don't want to be looking in an email box that's also going to have emails coming in about everything else in my business. I don't want the publishing email. I don't want the email about, a student asking about a course when I'm trying to deal with something. And just like keeping your business and your personal email separate, it's the same thing. You don't want to be going in your business email that also is your personal email and then see an email pop up having to do with your son's soccer tournament, and then you get sucked into dealing with that when you should be working, or vice versa. So you really probably need multiple emails. If you don't have them, you should probably get them. And so I hope that you have enjoyed the lashing that you have received about your emails, and I hope you will seriously consider making some of these changes. Again, ideally 1 to 2 times a day. That could be a long-term goal. I understand it's hard, but there is no reason that you need to be that available. Your time is worth more than that.